Hey, Islam family, peace and love. I want to go in pretty quick today on the video about Moorish-American versus American national. Um, there's a lot of people in what you could call the sovereignty movement that want to go by American national now. It's a newer um, nom de guerre form, I would say. Um, and the thing is, I don't have an extreme problem with the term American national because, to be clear, Moorish Americans are American nationals. But to say that you're American national is pretty vague in a sense. Um, and the reason being is because there are two sides of what an American national could be. An American national could be a Moorish American, um, but it could be a European on the other side of the treaty with the Moorish Americans who signed the Constitution. So not to say that there weren't Moors that were um, vital to starting this country, but their agenda may have been um, a little off or skewed from where we have woken up and know um, our status to be at this time. Um, you know, these Moors, that were with the Europeans, and even instructed a lot of the Europeans, you know, it's not necessarily that they were bad, but um, they were coming from years of um, war. We've been in hundreds of years of war with Europeans, and you know, just like there were Moors that were overseers in so-called slavery, there are also um, other Moors that were subservient to European powers at times or cooperative with European powers at times for what we would now colloquially say as for coonish reasons, just to be honest. So, we got to understand, as Moorish Americans, where we're trying to go with what we're doing. And when we're calling and identifying ourselves with something in law, what are the implications of it? Um, the Moors, the side of the jurisdiction that we were on is the side of the Barbary treaties, whereas um, the Europeans are bound by these same Barbary treaties because they signed on to them, but at the same time, they were part and parcel to the Articles of Confederation, the Declaration of Independence, along with the Constitution. So there's a split in the line of this jurisdiction on where Moors and where Europeans were, even though we occupied the same land. Now, the Europeans, um, as far as the treaty, they were granted a commercial jurisdiction. That's why their courts are, or admiralty courts for the most part. I'm not going to go into what that is, but that was the extent that they were granted as opposed to them operating in the de facto fashion that they have right now of the operative uh, government for the entire country, you could say. But you know de facto doesn't mean proper, we know, necessarily, but it does mean that they're recognized as running it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have the proper right to. And I'm going to get into that in just a second, because when we go into the Moorish jurisdiction over here, or the Aboriginal jurisdiction, which is the original jurisdiction to the landmass, the Moors have that over here. And when it comes to Moorish Americans versus American nationals, our jurisdiction extends beyond commerce. We actually have jurisdiction over the land from olden times, from ancient, what they would call BC times, but um, also in modern times, when it comes to the prophet, Noble Drew Ali, they say he was given the land mandate over here when he went to the Pan American Conference in 1928. And a lot of people have a misnomer on what that means. And my next video, I'm going to be going into that and breaking that down, um, you know, the way I like to do, so people get that, real thorough understanding where it's no longer legal theory that a lot of people go off of, because until people know better, that they don't know to do better. So what a land mandate is, real short, is it is the authority over the land, but it's not necessarily the ownership over the land. So when people try to write up and enforce a allodial title and they have some issues, um, that's part of where it is they're coming off of a flawed concept. They're coming off of some legal theory on what they think a land mandate is, and what their rights are concerning this land. Not to say that we don't have rights into this land, we definitely do, and a allodial title is definitely real. But the thing is, there are proper steps to going about it, and if you don't take these proper steps, it'll be the difference from getting your private remedy and making the news. These people, Moorish sovereign citizens squats on mansion. It's not that these people have necessarily a wrong idea in mind, but they had a wrong concept, or maybe missed a step or two that I've found working with my wife. She's a state licensed insurance real estate agent, and working for a broker, asking a few questions, kind of being vague about it. We were able to actually figure out what the process is to actually get an allodial title. And it's not an impossibility, but it does take certain steps that once you get to these certain steps, you get a certain result that you'll see, that is tangible. So when you see people who claim that they have allodial land and then are getting arrested off of this land, pulled off of their land because they're saying they have allodial title and lien and this and this and that, or getting foreclosed or evicted off of their property when they're supposed to have allodial title, you'll understand what the difference is. And my next video is going to be going a little bit deeper um, into this concept. It'll be more into the land mandate than to the allodial title. Allodial title, I think I'm going to save for my Patreon in particular, because that one is it's a great topic, but it's real deep, and I don't want people running off with the wrong ideas and making mistakes with that one, So I, but you can hit me up for a consultation at any time, and we can work that one out definitely. That's nothing. But yeah, I definitely want to get into these next couple topics, probably in the next couple days. And I do want to point out one thing, when it comes to this jurisdiction, when it comes to American nationals versus Moors. There are different sides to it, and I don't want to be really picking on people necessarily that say that they're American nationalists, because I do understand what you mean. But when it comes to our people being as melanated people, I would say that a more proper classification is Moorish-American. And I have other videos on this topic, particularly on my channel. So you could definitely check in the description. Or not in the description. You can check, on my channel, because I have lots of videos going into why we're Moors. And coming from a legal perspective, why the so-called black people are Moors and not black, and I don't necessarily include in there some of these other terms and do videos on it, because I don't like to necessarily bash or talk down on certain terms that people like to identify, but Native American and Indian, um, you know, is another one that is kind of like, these people on this in the Aboriginal movement, all of these names I agree with, but the legal term, on the books is Moors, and it's no escaping that fact, which is why I did more of my study into who the Moors were, and it became undeniable at the point where even though I've studied these different schools of thoughts, I was deep into the Egyptians and the Hebrews and the five percenters, and I've read into several different schools of thought, and you know just coming back to the truth and law with the Moors, like other people may have other truths that are definitely valid and high science, but when it comes to remedy in the physical form that is tangible to us as a people, as a whole, and individually, the Moors were the ones that have the results with it, and that's what I could say. And with that, I'm out for today. Peace and love.